Hey guys, how's it going? Pino here. So I started my YouTube channel and posted a little bit of something, but I figured I would do more of an official video, make the beta one better than the alpha video, and I just figured I would talk a little bit about myself. I know that I could go over some of the video games I have and some of the board games and things like that, and I was asking what could I bring to the channel that I create? What kind of information could I bring to people and put out there? That being said, I thought having a background, I realized I wouldn't mind reviewing games, video games, board games, Magic the Gathering, things like that, all these things that I've been into, but I realized that gaming's been a big part of my life ever since I was a young boy. And so I asked myself, what could I do with this channel, and what would I like to bring to the gaming world? With recent strides in gaming, I've started a board game ministry, and I look back at where I am now to where I was when I was a young boy, and I realized that gaming has been a big part of my life. And so I figured I'd just talk a little bit about what gaming means to me and where the channel might go. So I grew up, I was born in 1982, so I am like borderline in that millennial era, sort of Generation X. But a lot of people, I've read a great article where the Oregon Trail generation, where we grew up analog and we grew into digital. But through it all, there's been a lot of growth in gaming, both board games, card games, role-playing games, video games. Some people do know, a lot of people do, and some don't, but I grew up, my mother divorced from my father when I was just before kindergarten, and my mother was blind, and so I at a young age, you know, I didn't think much of it. It's no big deal to me, never was. I just thought everyone had blind moms. It was just a normal thing for me. But with that, I got into a lot of video gaming. Before that, I remember early childhood memories of my father had some children. He brought over from the Philippines, my half sister and half brothers, and they would walk from over by Northwestern High School, for those that may be watching this in my hometown, all the way over to South Sound Mall where the gold mine was, and I would play Galaga, and I remember playing Pac-Man and Centipede and things like that. So that was probably 3-4 years old. I started playing games, and then my mom and my dad divorced, and we moved across town to the west side of Olympia, and my dad stayed over towards like Lacey and whatnot. And over there, I had started living in some apartment complex, Villa Capri, and my mom had some friends that were there, and we'd go over and visit every now and then. And there was Jim and Phyllis, and they were quite a bit older than me. I mean, they were like in their 40s, like my mom's age or something. And so they introduced me to Atari, and Jim was a big computer gamer, and I got a first taste of actually this system right here. This 2600 is the 2600 that Jim gave to me when he got a Nintendo. So I got the hand-me-down, and I played a lot of Donkey Kong, Moon Patrol, Jungle Hunt, and things like that. And so I got into a lot of gaming. In Washington, it rains a lot, and during the summertime, you know, you're out on your bike. But again, it was a great time in gaming, where you know, you were out during the summer, you were playing, and then you come in, and when it get cold, or it was earlier, it was darker earlier, and you come in and you could play some games, maybe, you know, 30 minutes, an hour before bedtime, as long as your homework was done, of course, because that's important. And so I got into that. I was also in the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program. My mom signed me up for it, and my big brother, some of you know Hunter's Christmas Tree Farms out on Yelm Highway, still out there. And he was my big brother, and he was really cool and showed me a lot of different things that a low-income child and single mother may not been able to experience. So I'm very grateful for that. And one of those things was he got me a Nintendo Entertainment System with the Zapper gun and the Mario Duck Hunt combo. And then he bought one more game, which was Mega Man 3. Mega Man 3 would be probably my flagship game that that got me invested a lot more in gaming. Right now, actually, I have Mega Man 2 I'm playing in the background. I will seek out a copy of 3 because it is my flagship game. Unfortunately, I gave away my original game, so I got upgraded to Super Nintendo back at Game Bros. Some of you people in my hometown know what Game Bros was all about then, too. But from there, it just started growing, and Super Nintendo and friends' houses, and I realized that gaming over the years has probably sparked, built, and solidified many of my friendships. Some of my best friends I still hang out with today or keep in contact with today. I met them through video gaming. I played video games with them. It was always a favorite pastime. And so that brings me sort of into where I started working. My first job was actually at Skateland in Lacey. I worked there for a whole 6 months one summer, going into fall, and I wasn't too good of a job. Unfortunately, my younger years I slacked a little bit. But along the line, I rekindled a relationship with my buddy Jason, and he ended up getting me hired on at the Bean Pod in the mall, and which eventually became Shars, and I was just a mall rat. And as a mall rat, you work a lot of different jobs, and right next to Shars was a little Chinese place, and then it was the Tilt. On the west side, we had the Tilt, and Lacey, they had the Gold Mine. And I grew up in both the Gold Mine and the Tilt. Every time we go to the mall, my dad gave me $1, and I would just pump quarters in games at the Gold Mine. Anytime we come to the west side, like if you pick me up and we went to the west side, I'd go to the Tilt, and I would play the claw machines, and I'd play Street Fighter 2, and I'd just play all sorts of games, as much as $1 could get you at that time, which was 4 games, and then you go check the slots and you get maybe a quarter extra. But so I started working at the mall, and I worked a couple different places. I worked at Orange Julius and at the Bean Pod, and then eventually my buddy Jason, he was working with me at Shars or the Bean Pod, and he moved over to the Tilt, and he eventually became a manager, and a lot of the mall rats, we started looking for other jobs, and one of the coolest jobs in the whole mall was to be working at the arcade. So I myself started working at the arcade. I worked with several friends. I worked with my buddy Jason Johnson, my buddy Bill Porter. I think his little brother Daniel worked there for a little bit. I think their sister Diana worked there. Maybe, I don't know. My buddy Josh Magalona. Let's see here. Josh Schmidt worked there. Did his sister work there? I don't know. Josh will have to tell me. But, Calvin Carty, Chris Gilpatrick. A lot of these people I'm friends with to this day. Didn't Seth, who owned Game Bros, once work? I don't know. Who knows? A lot of people worked at the Tilt. I eventually became manager of the Tilt on the west side, and we parted ways. Again, I slacked, and stuff was going on underneath my nose, and I had to take accountability, and I got the axe. But I was the manager there for about a year. A total, I worked there maybe 18, 19 months. But I played a lot of Tekken, and a lot of Street Fighter, and Dave McConnen, he worked there. We played a lot of, what was it? All the games are just going blank now. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. We played a whole bunch of that. Augie Olson, Octavian Olson, he used to come in all the time, old buddy of mine, and we play whatever was hot to trot at the time, whatever the arcade got in. But these are all people that I'm still friends with on Facebook. I'm still friends with in life. We can pick up where we left off. I bring up Augie, and I remember one time he spent the night at my house. We just stayed up all night. I think we pretty much beat Tony Hawk Pro Skater when it first came out, I think on the PlayStation. We also played Blue Stinger, a really cheesy cult kind of game now, but it was really bad but good back then on the Dreamcast. John Mason, Sean Mansfield, Dion Stein, these guys, we play a lot of games. The downtime, when it was slow, we would mix and mingle and just pass the controller. So gaming, the way I see it, has just reaffirmed a lot of my relationships, and as I looked at video games, I got into Magic the Gathering. Sparked relationships with Chris Kilpatrick and Calvin and Carl. Those are my mentors in Magic. And outside of Calvin, because him and I there's quite a bit of age difference, but I know Chris is still friends with him, I think, and a lot of relationships were founded through Magic the Gathering. A lot of trips to Seattle. I think we did a trip to Portland. And I don't remember the games and that I played on, when it came to Magic the Gathering. I remember some of the decks, but I don't remember every single move, but I remember having a great time. Also, another a facet in gaming that and a lot of people here, even at the local shop here that I play Magic at, know that I'm all about the friendships over the gaming. That it's there to be fun and social, meet new people, and that's the best. And then with that, I've gotten into board gaming. Some of you have seen my posts over the last couple of years in board gaming. I have some out here. I don't think they're in the shot, and I have a whole closet. I have about 150 designer-style board games that I've collected, and I did that while I was founding a friendship between some friends, and it brought us to the table. And I remember my best friend in the entire world has stuck through gaming and put up with her husband for so many years. When we first met, we were hopping from place to place, and we needed a place to stay, and I reconnected with Carl Christensen, and he was living in Tumwater at the time, over behind the OB Credit Union in Tumwater there by the graveyard, and we were living out there. He brought us into he's like, I need some renters, and we said, we'll rent from you. And that was a lot of gaming there. Oh, taking a little bit back, Tracy and I, when we first met, I had the GameCube, and we played Tony Hawk Pro Skater Underground or something. Her and I completed that game together. My wife has always stood by my side and tried to take interest, even as geeky and nerdy as I am, in some of the things. She remembered playing Tony Hawk Underground, or just some sort of Tony Hawk, with their friends in college, so we wanted to play. When we moved her and moved me down into one of the bedrooms with Carl, we hooked up my Super Nintendo, and we played through Donkey Kong Country together. And man, did we play a lot of Scrabble and a lot of Monopoly with Carl, to the point of almost breaking up. We got so she would get mad at me when I do what she thought was a bad deal, or what I thought was a bad deal, and I get mad at her or something like that. But we can finish Monopoly in about 35 minutes between the three of us now. You just got to play by the rules, and you can do it. So we just continued to grow together, and she took my hand in marriage. which was just an incredible blessing. And through it, we've endured a lot of ups and downs. And my wife is my best friend. She's my bride, my queen, a blessing from God that I just would not give up for anything. She's the mother of two of my children, my only two children, and they're a tremendous blessing. And that's a lot of what it's about. It's not... Gaming has always been a season on a dish that you're cooking up, and the friendship, that's the dish, and gaming just seasons it to make it better and things like that. So that brings us closer to where we're at today, and as I mentioned before, I started a board game ministry at my church, Prescott Valley Christian, here in Arizona, and I was heavily into board games, and I was looking to utilize board games to bring the congregation together, whether it be we have an older congregation, and maybe bring some of the older members together with some of our teen group and enjoy a good time and fellowship together. And I've heard some good podcasts about board games and ministries. If you guys watch Tom Vassell and the Dice Tower guys at all, they do a lot of board game reviews, but he's a Christian, and they have a Christian podcast, Sam Healy does, and he was interviewing people that had board game ministries, and I thought, that'd be an awesome thing. Board games have been such a gaming has been such a facet in my life and has really solidified relationships. I figured I could serve the Lord by maybe doing Bible in a board game where we go through a short sort of a short lesson, like maybe a 10-minute meditation on some scripture and how that relates to board gaming. It doesn't have to relate, but we do that, and then we play a couple hours of board games, and then I've been hosting some events, and even at work I bring board games in for team building. Isn't that great? I bring board games in for team building because it's not about the game, it's about bonding, it's about the relationship. And one of the things I've come to realize, I was asked by my local shop owner, Allison. She's like, "What do you collect?" And I did a video on Facebook a couple days ago. But I said I could be a completionist and I could, collect anything and everything. And but I don't think the wallet can handle that. I could collect maybe just a certain niche game, or but I have a lot of consoles. I've collected consoles. People have known I've collected consoles. I have a couple Nintendos, Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, TurboGrafx, Sega Genesis, Sega Dreamcast, PlayStation 2. I pretty much, before the internet, all the way back to all the mainstream stuff. I could collect for all that, but I don't know if I will. I realize that collecting, to each their own. And for me, now that I'm 35, married with 2 wonderful children, I don't have all the time that I used to have back in the day. And so I wanted to take a look at what I would be collecting. And I thought, I want to collect cool and fun games. Daddy does like his JRPGs or his shoot 'em ups, but I've been collecting a lot of Mario lately, and so I've been on a Mario hunt and try to get a Mario game here, a Mario game there, trade for a Mario game or whatever. And kids like Mario, so it's been very enjoyable. But what I figured is, with board games, you come to the table. It's an analog system. You roll the dice, you pass them, you pass cards, you talk, you have eye contact. When you have video games, it's a little bit more tough. But as an old school gamer, and just to brush up on the modern games, I realized the connection between people has been lost. I mean, I was raised as the only child, and as a Filipino, like you play a lot of video games. but we never had them hooked up to the internet, and it was all about like, hey, bring over your game and you spend the night and we'll play and we'll hang out together, and then we'll go play, you know, Nerf guns or whatever. And we don't have that anymore. Nowadays people are hooking up their PS4, their Xbox One X, whatever it's called, X1360101, whatever you want to call it, and they hook it up to the internet and they put in Call of Duty. I think the new one's out, this Destiny 2, and they play with a bunch of strangers online, and a lot of first-person shooters, and it's great. And I look at the genre that's so popular, a lot of these first-person shooters, and I realize, what are some of the best first-person shooters? Well, you know, Doom, Duke Nukem, and we move right into probably one of the best, if not the flagship, was 007 GoldenEye on the N64. And I think what made that game so great was you had 4 people hooked into the N64, split screen, don't look at someone else's screen, you get yelled at. But we'd bump elbows and smash buttons, and we rack up the kill count, and we'd respawn and, you know, get all the guns and whatever. And Perfect Dark was on that system, but I realized that N64 and Nintendo had really they streamlined family entertainment and friend entertainment, whereas now I feel like a lot of those first-person shooters, you don't see the other person's screen because you're not in the same room, you may not even be on the same continent or country, and most likely you don't know them, and most of the people that get on there, you know, they have headsets and they're just talking crap to each other, and it's a negative atmosphere. And so most people like me, if I were to get on, I would just tune them out, and I don't even have a headset. I do play Call of Duty, and I used to play it on the Wii a lot when I got it, and I thought it was a really enjoyable game. But I haven't played it recently, and I might pick it up, and it is my favorite Call of Duty just because of the controller setup and a point and shoot versus an analog stick. But again, we're so detached in a connected world. Yet, when you have 4 people sitting on a couch and it's not hooked up to the internet, you have to intermingle, talk. You can talk crap. You can just enjoy your friends. We used to have a lot of those parties where we just play video games, play music, drink some beer, and just hang out. So looking at the times where my family would take me to play video games, or my dad would give me money to go play video games, to my buddy Nathan Guy, I remember got in trouble, and I got in trouble chasing him around on the playground, and I got sent to the principal's office, and we talked about it, and his dad and my mom, I think, agreed to have a sleepover, and we bonded actually over Mega Man 2. He had Mega Man 2, and we had some other games, and we played those games, and we fortified that relationship. And all my buddies at the mall, Jason, I've known since kindergarten, DJ, Joel, Derek, these guys were in Team Insight, and we used to play a lot of games together, and I've known a lot of those guys since kindergarten. But through it all, we've always wanted to throw on a video game when, you know, Friday night's not hopping, we'll throw on a video game and we'll just chillax and play some games for a while. To even relationships now, like my buddy Josh DeJoseph, he's a mega collector, I would say, here in town. We met through Magic the Gathering. I knew he did video games, but Magic was my thing at the time. And we just rekindled, or I don't know, we didn't have a really solidified relationship, but guess what? Gaming's helping to solidify a relationship. And I appreciate his friendship and his insight into the gaming. We can talk gaming. He came over and we played in the Fam Cave the other day. And I went over to his house, and so we want to get another game going on. But even meeting new people, like the local shop over, Kevin and Allison that own Black Box Gaming. Wonderful family. They got a beautiful little boy. And I've been meeting them and talking about their interests, and yet we haven't played really video games together. He sells me things, I trade in things, we talk about the classics that we love, but definitely we need to get together, and I'd love for his family to meet mine, and maybe Some of the collectors in town, we can all get together and have a barbecue, but it's more about the relationships, it seems like. No matter how many hours I play a video game, it's the relationships. So, coming full circle, where do I want this content to go? Where do I want the channel to go? If I continue to produce content, I don't know if I would want to just do reviews, but about family games or how these work together. I don't get to play games with my friends a lot, especially the analog games, so I get to play with my kids. So I just figured I would at least put out where I stand on it. And even if I don't hash on the subject during a review or any of the content that I put out, that you guys know where my foundation is, where I come from, my point of view on it, and then we can enjoy some of the cool things that gaming has to offer. So maybe not every video will be about gaming and the connection that it makes, but those are my roots, and sort of that's my perspective, and that's where I'm going to take it. So from here forward, I don't know where the channel will go. My buddy Josh DeJoseph and my buddy Josh Schmidt enticed me to do some videos, and I thought I would sort of meditate on it and think about where I could take something like this. Put some good content out there, enjoy a few good laughs, and just have fun with it. Gaming should be fun, easy, relaxing, and so hopefully my content will be the same. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Right now I'm doing some pretty basic video taping just on my cell phone. If I do 5 or 10 or 20 more videos or whatever just on my cell phone, I hope you guys don't mind. But maybe if this becomes a real thing, maybe I'll look to go get like an SLR video, SLR camera with video on it or something. I know my mother-in-law, she has SLR cameras that probably can do video, and she'd probably let me borrow them. So, but again, this is just sort of a hobby and just sort of fun and just sort of my take on things, where I stand and see the gaming community, video games in general, maybe some board games and maybe some Magic, and just talk about how they all relate together and how much fun we can have. So please check out my first video, which was me beating Hagane. I just thought it was really cool to film because it was really hard to play. But I might do some gameplay. It'll probably be on my cell phone, so we'll have to see if I can get some capturing equipment. But this is video number 2, and so it's fun and exciting. So we'll see where it goes. I appreciate you tuning in. Sorry I'm rambling. You have a good night. Smash buttons, knock elbows, and just keep on gaming on.